in more youth, how would you go about it?
There's several different things I think that we can do to draw in more youth. We can do some things that are a little bit more, have to deal with our image right now. The media has the Tea Party branded as a certain demographic of the American people. So if you want to bring in more people, don't call it a Tea Party. Because a lot of young people might not come to something called a Tea Party because they associate Tea Party with older generations. So there's different things, there's little things like that, but it takes thought, you know, to really think about what to do. Another thing is, like Phil was saying, he's got a group on his campus. So if just a little bit of outreach to these organizations and say, hey, we would like for you to come out and speak, you know. Phil was asked to come out and speak, and if we asked other people from Columbia, they would probably drive all the way because young people want to feel that they're needed. And so there's just a whole bunch of different things that we can do to bring in young people to it. It takes an effort to reach out to them and start thinking like them and accept their differences too. Because if they had their own version of a Tea Party, they might have a lot of loud music. But it's okay, because freedom's popular. And so if the whole point is to draw attention to the message of liberty, then that's exactly what we want.
Phil, talk a little louder.
Okay. I'll just expand on one point that Paul made. We do have 4 or 5 universities right within our little area, and each of them has conservative groups on them. And there's leaders in those groups, and they know a lot of people in their little club, and they can bring them to meetings like this. But we can also cultivate those relationships on Facebook. Maybe I just didn't get the invite, but I didn't see a Facebook invite for this group. And if there's no Facebook invite, it's like it doesn't exist to people under 25. Another thing you might want to consider is internships and essay contests for maybe just $200. That can get people to read a book like Atlas Shrugged or work on a campaign. You don't even have to pay people to work on campaigns. I worked for Anita Andrews, whose parents owned this building, for free for the summer, and I got 3 class credits. And that got me in a lot of stuff. So those are things that you can do to bring young people in and get them actively involved.
I just had the privilege of visiting Washington, D.C. and speaking before the Senate Ag Committee on an issue regarding horses in our country. And I'm here to tell you that our country is being run by 24-year-olds because the entire Capitol Hill was hustling and bustling with hundreds of young people. So they're eager to help, they're out there. I think many of them, if we're just talking about right here in Missouri, I know dozens of young, blossoming conservative young people who would give anything for an opportunity to speak and represent our values and our platform. And I think if we really were to actively seek some of these people, they would jump at the chance to have that experience as a springboard to further their potential career and whatnot. So I would be happy to help in that effort because I do think we need to get to these young people and obviously to the college campuses that are indoctrinating the other perspective.
Gosh, again, I would just echo everything. Okay, I would just echo everything that they've said, and probably just say again that technology is the thing that's going to attract them. My son, who's in his 30s, so he's not college age, but he was. We recruited him to be a supervisor a poll supervisor assistant. So he, took care of the computer, the ballot machines, and he really enjoyed that. And so those kind of things are issues and jobs and positions and activist things that we need to tell young people about and recruit them for that and go to the college campuses, and reach out to them because they're not going to come in unless we do.
I have nothing to say. I'm just trying to remember what they all said.
Okay, third question. What is the #1 mistake that you see activists making? Bev, what do you say?
I wasn't listening. You were talking.
I'm sorry. What do you feel is the #1 mistake that activists make?
I'm going to start with me. #1. Well, I think most of us probably just talking. #1 mistake. Talking about something and thinking you've actually done something. I think a lot of us, you know, we've already expressed, talk to each other and go to meetings and go home and think we've really accomplished something. Well, when out in Warren County, when I first moved out to Warren County, we were asked to be on the Republican committee, and so they met once a month and they got together and talked bad about the Democrats and went home and thought they'd done something. And so I thought, well, wait a second, we didn't do anything. And so we kind of got a little bit more involved out there. But anyway, but I think a lot of times we zero in on what they are doing wrong, and I hear so much negative. And when you know a lot of state reps and state senators and even congressmen personally, you know there's a lot that are doing good, and so you don't want those that are doing bad to discourage us. And so I guess maybe hook on. Oh, that's not. You just said what we did wrong, right?
Yeah, I would agree with your answer, though. Absolutely, Brenda.
Well, I would say, you know, kind of the same thing. It's like talking and not doing something. And really, the first year, we had to have the rallies. We had to have the get-togethers. We had to have the meetings so we could find each other. That's what 2009 was all about. And it was a great year. And the you know, the town halls with Claire McCaskill and the meetings in front of the sign protests in front of her office were exciting, and it got us all geared up. But then, you know, time started marching, and now it's like 2009 and 2010 were totally different. This year is an entirely different landscape and feel than those 2 years were, and it has been since the beginning of the year, since really November. It's just different, and that's because I think, you know, we are educated now. For the most part, there's always something that we need to learn, but we're educated. We know the basics. We're paying attention. We're on Facebook. We're on the email list. We're getting information. We're, you know, looking it up. Now it is time to take that all and do something. And we've got to start marching. You've got to get your sphere of influence, make a group, talk to your people, get their names and emails, and when we get into the trenches, when we start these campaigns, which is going to be very soon, call them up, email them, say, okay, I need my team to come here. And that's what we need to do.
This is a tough one. I don't know that this is necessarily a mistake per se, but I do believe that in order to make an influence, that activists need to individually pick a point. I mean, we're totally under siege right now in our country with everything going on. Take your pick, immigration, Obamacare, all these different things. But I do believe that each activist, it would be helpful to pick one thing and be really informed on that one thing and become an expert on it, so that you can really be effective in different, as we organize the organized, we can be effective in our mission to get the message out. It's the only thing I can think of.
Two big problems I see with activists. A lot of them want to come into a campaign and try to educate people. I had somebody come to me once and said, Phil, I want you to help me set up a phone bank. I'm like, well, what do you want to do with your phone bank? Well, I want to call people and educate them about the ideas of liberty. And I'm like, no, maybe not. When you're on a campaign, you really have to focus on getting your candidate elected and use time-tested political methods to do that. Another thing is a lot of them fall into the trap where everybody says a campaign's a lost cause and they just throw it by the wayside. I'm reminded of Prop B with my friend Mindy Patterson. She worked really hard and I helped her, and everybody said that we were going to lose. Well, we ended up losing by, what, 50,000 votes, when everybody thought we were going to lose by like 60%. And we eventually got most of it repealed. So a lot of things that people say are lost causes aren't necessarily lost causes. Don't believe all the political consultants that want to be out there, and just follow your heart and your instincts.
I'll echo a little bit about what Bev said. I think one of the big mistakes that activists make is when they confuse activity for activism. Having a rally, like what Brenda said, is good because it helps people identify each other. But unless you actually take your message to the places where the decisions are being made, then we've kind of hyped each other up, but that influence hasn't left the baseball field or the stadium or the gymnasium or wherever it was that we were having our rally. And when I was in Jefferson City, the activists there are paid activists, and they're called lobbyists. And they're all over the place, and they're affecting change. every day in my mailbox, I'd have a list with a whole bunch of bullet points about a bill or about an issue. And so we could take a lesson from the lobbyists who everybody loves to hate, but the thing is they're very effective. That's why they get paid to do it. And so maybe it might be a good idea to say whatever these guys are doing, because these guys are able to get their points across, they're able to get their issues passed. We're all not going to get paid for it, but freedom's popular and people have died fighting for freedom, so maybe it's worth a couple tanks of gas during a legislative session to get out there and door knock on a bunch of offices. I think I maybe have 2 or 3 organizations across the state of Missouri who have me on their mailing list, and only one of them is a Tea Party organization. So we got Tea Parties all across Missouri, and none of them, except one, have me on their mailing list. I'm a state representative now, and nobody's taken advantage of all that contact information that's on the Missouri House webpage. So, but the lobbyists do. And that's why they're effective, because they're there, they're making face-to-face contacts and shaking hands with the representatives. So I think that the big mistake we make is when we're fooling ourselves into thinking that what we're doing is working, when in reality it's not working as well as it could if we would just look at what is working and try to model ourselves after that.